Hi everyone, in this month we're focusing on music exams, and one of the components of a music exam, perhaps one of the most feared components, although the oral tests are also feared, is sight reading, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In fact, I'm going to be jumping on the piano and doing a demo of how to implement this, which is our 10-step sight reading checklist. So I'm going to take you through exactly how to use that on one of our Top Music Sheets compositions, and we'll go over the piano in just a second, but I'm Tim Topham and you are watching the Top Music YouTube channel. It's great to have you here. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope this is really useful to you in your studio. Now, of course, just before we start by saying that sight reading is a component of exams, of course, that's not the truth. Sight reading should be an element of all music lessons for all students because it's a fundamental skill and it's a really important skill. Being good at sight reading can enhance students' experience and enjoyment of music in all areas, can make learning new pieces faster and easier. And I for one, have built a lot of my career on my ability to sight read pretty easily and pretty fast. And I think one of the biggest aspects of that and my ability to do it, one of the causes, is I've done a lot of accompanying and a lot of playing in groups and bands and accompanying singers, where, of course, one of the primary things about sight reading is you can't stop. You just have to keep on going, and no matter how lost you get. Oh, and I should add playing for musicals as well and musical theatre productions, because you just have to keep on going, and that's one of the skills that we're going to talk about in this checklist today. So please subscribe to the channel and make sure you leave a comment or any questions below. I can't wait to read those. And let's jump over to the piano. Okay, so now that I'm at the piano, let's talk about the music that I'm going to be sight reading today. And I have not played this before. I've just opened it up to the page. So it's called Theo, the Pentatonic Cat. It's from one of our Top Music Sheets collections from Amy Jorgensen. This was volume 8 from December 2020. And in order to sight read this piece, I'm going to take you through the 10-step checklist I showed you before. So let's get started. The first step in the checklist is check the time signature. Pretty crucial, right? We've got to make sure that we're going to be playing this in time. So when I have a look at the music here, the first thing that I get scared by is the key signature. We're going to come to that in step 2, but the other thing I see here is 4/4, but I also see light and delicate and a fairly steady pace. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be about the pace I think we're going to be talking for this piece. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, find the key. Now we've got lots of black notes here. For those who aren't too sure, the key of this piece is either G flat major or E flat minor. It's relative minor. And I can tell which one of those two it is by having a look at the first chord in the left hand and the lowest bass note. So it's in treble clef. The lowest bass note there is E flat, and it's in fact an E flat minor triad. So we're definitely in E flat minor, at least to start this piece. So that's really important, and I recommend, according to the checklist, that it's good if students can play that scale, at least with 1 or 2 hands. Now, of course, most of your students won't be playing something in E flat minor, but you get the idea. I wanted to give myself something that was at least a bit of a challenge and wasn't too easy. Okay, now step 3 is to sing the piece through in your head. So what does that mean? Well, if the student's doing an exam, they don't want to be la 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 out loud because the examiner might think you're going a bit bonkers. So in their head, they want to get a sense of the melody and the timing. How should it sound? It doesn't matter if they're in tune or not. So I don't know what the starting note is. I don't have perfect pitch, but I'm just going to look at this and go ba da 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 dum da da dee da dum. Bum, 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 dun, dun. And then we've got this something different happening down here. So I've got a sense already that it's kind of lyrical, maybe a little bit sad, melancholy, and the right hand's nice melody. It's up high on the piano. So I've already got those things down now in my head. All right, the step 4 is to find any patterns. At the start, we've definitely got some very obvious chordal movement in the left hand, and there's a repeating pattern there. And the right hand likes this da ba rhythm, I can see. But the most obvious patterns come in the left hand down here. And if you can recognize that and be able to play that or something very similar to it, you'll be able to play this pretty easily, because once your left hand's rolling along down here, you can just play the right hand and just read the right hand notes. And that's one of the true keys to effective sight reading on piano, is that your left hand kind of has to do its own thing. You can't really read both properly at the same time. So there's a lot of guesswork that goes on in the left hand. The only way you can guess the left hand is to know your chords and to know your harmony, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching those skills. Okay, so that was step 4, find any patterns. Step 5, find your starting hand positions. And does the student need to switch hand position? So my starting hand position, left hand's in the treble clef, E flat minor chord, and the right hand's an octave higher than written, which would be up here. So here's my starting position. And then, so we know it's called the pentatonic cat, where it looks like we're going to be using a lot of the black notes for this. And then I'm going to have to move down here. I've got a pattern. Okay, so I've got a sense for that first page of where my hands need to go. All right, feel the pulse, count in and play. So we're kind of ready to give this a shot now. Always get your students to count in out loud when they're practicing sight reading, because they won't do it unless they have to do it out loud. So I'm going to give this a shot now and let's see how it goes. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go a bit faster. How did I do? All the piano teachers out there, hopefully you are following along with the music and you can tell, yeah, I made some mistakes, but I didn't stop and I kept on going. And that is so, so important. And that is in fact step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once you've started, don't stop. Make sure you remind your students of this. And look, sometimes I get them to play. There's other ways to practice right down the bottom of this sheet here. Try playing the rhythm of the piece just using a single repeated note on the piano. This can be super crucial because if a student's going to struggle and they're going to keep stopping, that's actually worse than playing something that flows and has a sense of style to it that has some wrong notes in it. So you don't want to have this kind of thing. And then, I would much prefer students get it in time and get the notes wrong. And so here's a little exercise I've tried with my students and they really kind of hate it and then they kind of laugh about it. You can get your students and say, look, I want you to sight read this and you're allowed to play all the wrong notes. In fact, I want you to play all the wrong notes, but get the rhythm right and get the style right. So if I was to do that, let's go to another little section over here. So I'm going to play from bar 33, Dark and Sneaky. And I'm just going to play the rhythm and get the notes wrong. So it doesn't really matter what notes I choose. I'm just going to go like this. So here we go. I'll go spread my hands a bit further wide. Here we go. So... Okay, do you get the idea? I'm not playing the right note. Well, I'm kind of playing some wrong, some right notes, but the rhythm is there and the piece is flowing. Students will either find this, well, they'll find it really weird because they're not used to being encouraged to play wrong notes. And then they'll find it a little bit liberating because as long as they get the rhythm and the style, then they're doing okay according to the instructions that you've given them. So try it out because once they can do that, then they can get a sense for the fact that, yeah, the most important thing about sight reading is not that every note is right. In fact, well, it's great to get them right, but it's not important. What's most important is a stylistic interpretation that flows and has some kind of tempo that's consistent and is a meaningful musical construct. Something that keeps stopping and starting and all of that, it's kind of meaningless and the worst way to do a sight read. So last three steps, assess how you went afterwards and help the student do that. How did it go? Where did you get stuck? What was wrong? Where can you improve? And then I encourage students, although they're not going to get the opportunity to do this in an exam, try and play it again. Just play it one more time and see how much better you can make it. And if you did do that exercise in, let's play all the wrong notes, but get the rhythm right, then try it a second time, getting as many of the notes right as you can while keeping that rhythm consistent. And then the last step, Sight reading takes lots of practice, so give it a shot, encourage your students to do it as much as they possibly can at home. It's great to have some sort of leveled curriculum and check boxes where they can just tick things off as they do it. Maybe they do one every night of the week for 5 in a week. And there are lots of great books that have that kind of approach where it's really segmented, check things off, which is always satisfying to do, and leveled really appropriately. And, don't give students sight reading that's too hard. A lot of the time when students do go through grade after grade after grade after grade, the two things that are really hard, well, actually everything's really hard, but scales and technical work is challenging, but the sight reading will never keep up with the grade level that they're actually performing at. So if they're working at grade 5 and just struggling so much with the sight reading, then give them some grade 2 stuff and build up that skill. Using this checklist, hopefully that will help. All right, so why don't I just play you a little bit of page 2 of this, seeing as you've heard it, and it's a pretty nice tune. I really love this one now that I've heard it. So let me just play you a little bit of page 2. I'll start at bar 20 where we have the main melody come in. And if you'd like to get copies of this kind of sheet music, then just join our membership over at topmusicpro.com. You can join our light membership. It's just $10 a month, and you get a pack of sheet music like this in your inbox each and every month to explore studio licensed with your students. So I hope you enjoyed that session today, seeing the checklist in action. Let me know if you've got any questions or comments, and make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next week. Oh, and just before you go, if you want to grab a copy of the 10-step sight reading checklist, then just head over to topmusic.co/sight reading and grab your free copy. Hope it's helpful. See ya.